Hi, my name is Jason Lim. I'm the founder and CEO of Cydentiq. Today, I'm going to share with you the topic of boosting your identity and access management maturity with identity first security. This topic will also discuss around the latest trends and landscape of identity and access management, the approach that we use to assess the maturity, and some of the guiding principles that we use to help organizations across their IAM journey. Let's quickly take a look on today's landscape of overall identity fabric. Obviously, there are too many types of identity that require to be managed today. They could come from human-based identity or machine identities, or even within human identities, we have workforce, we have customers' identities. And what all these identities trying to do is, day to day, they will try to assess this set of assets, whether or not this is sitting on the cloud, whether it's an on-prem application, server, databases, devices, and so on. And the challenges today is that there are too much of technologies or solutions present from identity world, making it very, very difficult and complex to be implemented and managed. There are solutions such as identity verification, multi-factor authentication, single sign-on, identity governance and administration, privileged access management. So the questions that the industry should be answering today is that how do we piece all these components together in making sure that it works well in this holistic identity fabric ecosystem? It is interesting to see how much that IAM has transformed from previous times to today's time. And obviously, it's interesting to see that how identity and access management moving forward. One of the traditional factors that we often see is that we come from operational. Many organizations try to make IAM get implemented and just make some processes run on it, and then that's about it. But we see that has been shifted to a lot to focusing on foundational. We want to make sure that the program has done well in terms of establishing the right foundation so that it can continue to scale from there. And then we also see that organizations are start shifting from, instead of talking a lot on automation, organizations talk about autonomy. The other aspect is that sophisticated organizations and or rather end users, they like to look at how easy to create a frictionless user access experience instead of involving too many steps to get their user account onboarded. And last point, policy driven. What do we mean by that is that those days, many organizations tend to create a lot of policy and then just get it enforced within the system itself. But today we can really leverage on the technology from artificial intelligence and machine learning that's coming into the entire IAM program to study and learn the entire user access behaviors, understand the user access patterns, or even up to the level of try to analyze the overall peer access within the departments and then provide some kind of recommendation and suggestions to make business decision. Let's quickly take a look on this scenario. Imagine today you have various of cybersecurity control that has already deployed and in place. And then there is a user is trying to bypass the security control for whatever reason and access to the cloud resources directly, bypassing all the security control that you have within the organization. So what's going to happen is that the cloud will, if you have integrated the cloud infrastructure with your SIEM, then this will definitely trigger in real-time alerts to your SIEM. And then we can actually integrate the SIEM with identity and access management to get SIEM to trigger the policies informing IAM there's such potential anomalies happening around there. And then from there, IAM can definitely come into your organization and trigger the provisioning engines to disable all the user access including your application, server, database, or network. And at the same time, the identity and access management will also fire up the necessary access review to get the appropriate managers to come in to review the certain access, or even we can actually automatically disable the access to all the cloud resources. And finally, with that, your identity threat detect and response technology will be able to gather all these sort of informations to help on the overall investigation processes and simplify the automated response for this particular event. Now, it is so important to do the right planning before you start your identity and access management journey. Here are some of the guiding principles I would like to share with you. So first, we really have to define what are the identities that require to be managed in your program, or at least in your first phase one, right? So we can actually look into, are you protecting the human identities, machine, or even the cloud? Next, once you identify the types of identity required to be managed, we need to look at the overall requirements. So we can have things like coverage. What are the use case that you would like to coverage? Is it you would like to protect privileged access, or you would like to actually perform a better governance on your identity? So we must really be able to drill down very detailed in terms of use case. And then we start defining what platforms or applications or even environments, whether it's a productions or disaster recovery site that require to be managed. After that, we can actually move to look at what will be the right hosting model. Are you going to host the solution on-prem, or is it on the cloud? And then finally, we can also look at the overall deployment model. And definitely, it's going to be a phased approach. It's not going to be one big bang. And what are the strategy that you use to roll out your program? And what will be your operating model after this project has been get implemented? Do you self-manage it, or do you actually outsource it to a managed services provider? Once this is done, then this is time to look at the capabilities. So do look at what are the mandatory capabilities that are required to be built up. And obviously, there are certain use case or capabilities that is touching on extended capabilities. And some of these you may actually think of implementing it later. So be sure to actually align back to your business driver as well. And lastly, sustainability factor is very crucial in your IAM journeys. Ensuring the model that you're going to take is going to ease your overall deployment and maintenance, to ease the overall integrations with the surrounding application and technology within your environment, making sure that it can be scaled, whether it's from on-prem to the cloud. And lastly, you must have a very right metrics to measure the overall maturity so that you can always strive for the improvement. As Cydentiq, we provide a very simple 4-step approach to help our organizations to navigate the entire identity journey. So the first step basically start from planning. In planning, we have two of our flagship assessment services, namely Identity Maturity Assessment and Rapid IAM Roadmap Assessment. So this roadmap assessment will be incorporating of overall best practices and some of the standards and framework from Identity Defined Security Alliance Framework, ISACA CMMI Maturity Model. And this framework will cut across looking into holistically organizations' maturity in terms of these 6 core domains: identity core, directory, governance, lifecycle, access management, and privilege access management. In addition to that, we will also be looking at the feasibility of overall application integration, and then use this to map to the overall market leading indicator of IAM capabilities metrics. And finally, we are able to use this baseline to formulate an actionable and practical IAM roadmap. This is the overall identity and access management capabilities metrics. So we have very clear metrics that outline the core capabilities of identity governance and administrations, privilege access management, and also access management. And out of these 3 components, we also have this what we call shared capabilities such as dashboard, reporting, workflow, policy engine, risk engine. As part of the identity maturity level, we will be using the model from ISACA. So each organizations will be representing with very clear maturity level of exactly where they are today. You may be basically sitting at level 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. So each of the level will be associated with a very clear definitions so that the clients will understand clearly exactly how do they move from one level to another level. This is a very quick snapshot of the report that we often show to our customers. Out of the 6 domains, we have the individual scorecard for each of the domains. For example, this is identity and directory domain. And then we will show these particular snapshots of gaps. What are the gaps that we actually often look at comparing your current and your targeted state? For example, this client want to go level 3, and right now you are basically at level 1 or level 2. And obviously, some of these levels come with certain risks, which will also highlight inside the report itself. And in addition to that, we will also be providing the series of recommendations. How do we move from level 1 to level 2, level 2 to level 3? This is the overall view of the identity maturity landscape. In total, we have 31 controls cut across the 6 domains. So you can clearly see that if you like to actually move from certain level up to level 3, obviously there are certain gap over there, and then there are lists of actions that require to be taken. Finally, with all the assessment that we basically done in the earlier engagement, that it will help our consultants to formulate all these initiatives, populate into a very actionable and timeline-based roadmap. And if you look at this strategy IAM roadmap, it's going to be very, very detailed, that it outlines that, for example, as part of your identity journey, maybe certain applications are going through some upgrade, that refresh, or moving to cloud, run as a SaaS, So these are the applications that we must take considerations when we plan out the identity access management journey, so that there are applications that we don't repeat the overall integrations, right? And you can also see that there are a lot of dependency. For example, if you would like to complete the password management, you must be required to formalize some of the HRMS processes first before you actually come to the identity lifecycle management use case. Once you have a very clear roadmap in the step number 1, then you will come to step number 2, which is on the build. In building path, you are actually going to start your implementation journey. So we provide a ultimate identity security framework that consists of several identity components, as you can see on this particular framework. So let's quickly take a look on identity governance. If you implement a identity governance solutions, you're going to centralize all the identity within a single source of a system and trying to map it up to your HR, to all the respective systems, so that you can see a very clear view of who has access to what. And then from there, you can actually automate your entire access review processes, get all the managers to come into the platform to do the access review processes. And while you are navigating to identity lifecycle component, this is where that a lot of weightage around authorizations. So we talk about managing the user access from the whole lifecycle, from joiner, mover, leaver aspect. So there's a provisioning and workflow engine that is actually part of this identity governance, including self-service password management. When we talk about privilege access management, we are talking about providing a secure password vault to house all the privileged credentials, ensuring just-in-time access to all the privileged users. And then we also have the technologies to record the user sessions when they are establishing the privileged sessions towards the target system. You'll get all these activities recorded. We also have components called single sign-on, SSO. And normally when organizations implement SSO, they will intend to incorporate the multi-factor authentication component within the project so that it creates a very good balance between security and convenience. If we continue to discuss about data access governance solution, this is basically look at how do we protect and manage your unstructured data, such as your SharePoint, OneDrive, G Drive, share folders. How do we bring all this access information of who can access to what file or folders into single platform, and then get all the managers to come in to conduct the access review. Insider threat management solution will try to understand the overall user access behavior, and when they detect there are such anomalies, they will basically flag it out and alerts or for certain people to carry out some actions to remediate or investigate the security incident. For examples, we can start to actually understand the user access, how long or when particular time, if these users is always accessing to the system from Monday to Friday, 9 to 6, and suddenly we start to discover that the users logging into the system at 3 a.m. and trying to do a lot of printing jobs. When that incident get triggered, this is where there's some anomalies, and then the alerts will be fired up and send it to the respective parties to conduct the investigation. And finally, we have Customer Identity and Access Management Solution, CIAM. So CIAM will basically simplify the overall user experience from the moment that bringing them on board to the platform until they get offboarded, doing all the progressive profiling, consent management, or even we talk about transaction signing, coming to the platform to do further authentications and authorize certain payment. Once we completed step number 2, build the implementation path, basically we will come into the run state. Running a program, it can based on many different models. It can be self-managed, it can be basically outsourced managed services to a providers. So we provide the overall support maintenance, managed services to our clients, including the hosting model that the organization can basically pick to do it on-prem or on the cloud. We can actually come in to manage the infrastructure as well. And finally, is a very important state within all IAM program we call skill. Scaling for success is essentially important here because IAM is ultimately a journey, it's not a destination. It requires continuous effort and initiative to bring additional system to be get onboarded, expanding the use case that you get implemented, enlarging the application integration scope. And on top of that, we also provide the holistic training as well for identity and access management. That's all for now. Thank you very much for your time. If you would like to understand more or discuss with me more about identity security related topics, feel free to scan the QR code and connect me via LinkedIn. I'm more than happy to discuss further with you. See you over there.